India-US defense ties are set to grow stronger than ever before. This commitment has been made by Lloyd Austin, President Biden's top aide and US Defense Secretary. Highlighting the Stryker armored vehicle production and jet engines for India's indigenous fighter jet LCA Tejas, he hinted that it may just be the start of more joint defense production projects with India. Austin made these comments at the Shangri-La Dialogues in Singapore, a summit attended by Chinese Defense Minister as well. US Defense Secretary said, quote, "The relationship we enjoy right now with India is as good or better than a relationship that it has ever been. It's really strong. We are co-producing armored vehicles with India." Austin's comments on India were echoed by representatives from Australia and the Philippines as well, showcasing India's rising role to combat global security challenges. This at a time when Chinese Defense Minister once again vowed that Chinese military would never allow Taiwan's independence. The statement following the live fire drills by PLA, it once again raises the stakes and hints at a possible Chinese invasion of Taiwan sooner than later. In this context, the US-India defense ties can really take off. US is the world's largest arms exporter, while India has been the world's largest arms importer since the 1990s. But it's only now that the two countries are exploring greater collaboration in the military arena, driven by the desire to counter China's expansionist ambitions, as well as the will to maintain the current rules-based international order. After decades of mistrust and apprehension, the defense ties between the world's top two democracies are slowly gaining steam. The US still trails the likes of Russia and France for defense sales to India, and Austin highlighted the jet engine deal for Tejas fighters to elaborate how the road has been rocky for Washington as well, saying, quote, "We set out with the notion to get approval for India to build jet engines for fighter aircraft in India. I served on the board of the company that makes the jet engines for fighter aircraft, and I know how difficult this was going to be. And we were hopeful but very skeptical that we could get across the finish line. We did it, and that's happening." The latest big-ticket India-US defense deal was for the acquisition of 31 MQ-9B Reaper drones armed with Hellfire rockets. These drones will help the military monitor nearly 15,000-kilometer long Indian borders 24/7. They will especially be useful in keeping an eye on Chinese tactics and movements along the LAC so that Indian defense forces are never again caught off guard. Even the Pentagon highlighted defense ties with India, saying, quote, "Our defense trade is now valued at over $20 billion US, and India recently announced their decision to acquire over 30 MQ-9Bs. That's part of a growing defense relationship between our countries that couldn't be more important." But it's not just weapon sales driving the relationship. Like we mentioned, US still trails the likes of Russia and France by some distance in terms of weapon sales to India. India has inched closer to Moscow and Paris because, quite simply, Washington was arming Pakistan, India's eternal rival. Yet, Islamabad suffered humiliating defeats against India in 1965 and 1971, resulting in the breakup of the erstwhile Pakistan and creation of Bangladesh. This despite US military equipment supplies to Islamabad. The trend continued till a few years ago, with Pakistan Air Force still operating the F-16s. Washington's actions created a huge trust deficit in New Delhi. However, recent geopolitical upheavals, including US-led war on terror, changed the dynamics. Pakistan's ISI was found to be actively supporting terrorist networks in Afghanistan and POK, while the world's most wanted terrorist was hunted down by US forces who had been living close to Pakistani military establishment. At the same time, India's growth accelerated, quickly becoming the world's fifth largest economy. The Doklam standoff and Galwan Valley clashes a few years later showed the US and the world that India is the only country capable of putting a stop to PLA's salami slicing. This not only prompted India to boost its own defense ties with the USA in terms of weapons, intelligence sharing and joint exercises, but also prompted Washington to boost ties with China's biggest regional rival, with the chief of US Indo-Pacific Command saying, quote, "Military to military, we have been executing more such increased operations and exercises together. They are working towards becoming more interoperable. They've bought our helicopters, they have C-130s as we do. And we continue to expand both bilaterally and multilaterally our actions and exercises with them," unquote. Without naming China at the Shangri-La Dialogue, even Australian Defence Minister Richard Marles stressed on a joint effort to combat regional threats, saying, quote, "Australia is also expanding its defence relationship with Japan, Korea, India, Indonesia, the Philippines, Vietnam and other partners in Southeast Asia. The relationship have in fact never been stronger, reflecting how we are all making choices about how to strengthen regional resilience. Meanwhile, the Philippines has become a key regional defense partner for India. New Delhi has supplied BrahMos missiles to the Philippines Marine Corps for coastal defense against any Chinese aggression, while Manila has also shown interest in acquiring the LCA Dhruv choppers operated by Indian Navy. 3 Indian warships also recently visited Manila, while for the first time India has sent a defense attaché to the Southeast Asian nation to further enhance the defense partnership. Marcos Jr., the Philippines president, stated, quote, "The Philippines will pursue more robust collaboration with friends such as South Korea, India, among others. Collaborative endeavors among a few states that share specific interests built into pillars that support the architecture of regional stability," unquote. The Shangri-La dialogues must serve as a wake-up call for China. The world's leading democracies are uniting against constant Chinese threats, and India's rise on the global stage is here to stay. Leave a comment, hit the like button, and remember to subscribe to InConnect News.